Hi, welcome back. This is the third of 4 videos on Aeneid 6, the set text for OCR 2023 to 24. I'll go through the Latin, the English and the effects that you need for the paper. So we've looked at Charon, we've seen the Sibyl prove Aeneas' worth to Charon, and he's finally made his way through the underworld to meet Anchises. But deep in a green valley, his father Anchises was surveying the spirits enclosed there, destined for the light above, thinking carefully, and was reviewing as it chanced the numbers of his own folk, his dear grandsons, and their fate and their fortunes as men, and their ways and their works. And when he saw Aeneas heading towards him over the grass, he stretched out both his hands eagerly, his face streaming with tears, and a cry issued from his lips. So Pater Anchises, Father Anchises, if we have a look at the vocabulary, animas for spirits, lumen for light, lustrabat, shining, omnemque suorum, all of his, carosque nepotes, his dear ones and his descendants, fataque fortunasque, their fates and their fortunes, moresque manusque, their ways and their deeds. Vide Aenean, running over the line, he saw Aeneas, fusaque lacrimae, we've got the tears streaming, vox excidi ore, his voice exited his mouth or issued from his mouth. So lots of vocabulary you know already from the language paper if you pick through it. And there's some vocabulary that you might need to review because it's just really specific to the set text, but lots that you know already. Let's look at the effects. So we've got an epithet in Pater Anchises, Father Anchises. This part of the Aeneid is Anchises kind of handing over power to Aeneas. We have light imagery because the souls that Anchises is looking at in the Elysian fields are going to be reborn. So we have lumen and lustrabat. We have itiuras, being about to be. This is a future participle and gives the idea of a telescoping of time. Past, present and future tenses are actually a literary effect in Aeneid 6 because we have a bit of prophecy looking backwards and looking forwards to the promise of Rome. We have syndetic listing in all of the que, fataque, fortunasque, moresque, manusque. And these are also alliterative couplets that connect different ideas together and make a kind of upbeat and pacey meter to the lines, I suppose. We have enjambement as well, in the way that Aeneas' name comes over the line, which happens almost every time Virgil mentions Aeneas, to make him really the focal point. We also have enclosing order, in fusaque lacrimae, so they're put either side for emphasis. Have you come at last, and has the loyalty of your father expected conquered the harsh road? It is granted me to see your face, my son, and hear it and speak in familiar tones. I calculated in my mind and thought it would be so, counting off the hours, nor has my trouble failed me. From travel over what lands and seas do I receive you? What dangers have held you about, my son? How I feared the realms of Libya might harm you. So we have vinisti, you have come, or have you come. Parenti, parent, durum, difficult journey, iter. Pietas, piety. Nate is that very formal word for son or child that I mentioned earlier. Audire redere, to hear and to reply. Voces, voices. Ducebam, I was leading. Animo, spirit. Futurum, literally things that are about to be. Tempora, we have time. Terras and periquora, so what lands and what seas. Again, probably a bit of a henditis, and we'll look at effects in a moment. Pericles, dangers, Nate, sun, and regna, kingdoms. So quite a lot there that you're already going to know from the language paper to help. Remember that the exclamatives in the last 3 are kind of rhetorical questions. They're a bit awkward. How many, how much, what great. And if you remember that, it'll be easier for the 5-mark translation. So let's have a little look at the effects then that Anchises uses on this reunion. This is likely to be an 8-marker on how sympathetic Anchises is as a figure. So we have the rhetorical questions that kind of come throughout. We have that with the exclamatives at the bottom as well. The vocative, nate, that is very formal and is part of Virgil's idiolect. That's how he tends to say son in the Aeneid. We have this sense of balance and reciprocity, audire redere, to both hear your voice and return with my own. So he's not appearing to him in a dream, which he has done before, Anchises appeared to Aeneas in a dream before our prescription picks up. So now he's very excited that they get to actually interact, and that's there in the balance of audire et redere, the two infinitives. We have the telescoping of time, the futurum, things that are about to be, and tempora, time. And all the exclamatives serve as rhetorical questions too. We also have within that a triad, so quite often you have more than one effect going on at a time. Quas ego, quantes, and quid, so it's kind of building up the rule of three for dramatic effect. Okay, so let's get back to the Latin and have a little look at the translation of Aeneas' response. He answered, "Father, your image, yours, appearing to me so often, drove me to reach this threshold. My ships ride the Etruscan waves, father. Let me clasp your hand, let me, and do not draw away from my embrace." So speaking, his face was also drowned in a flood of tears. 3 times he tries to throw his arms around his father's neck. 3 times clasped in vain. That semblance slips through his hands like the breeze, most of all like a winged dream. Okay. So let's have a look at Aeneas' response to Anchises. He answered, "Father, your image, yours, appearing to me so often, drove me to reach this threshold. My ships ride the Etruscan waves. Father, let me clasp your hand, let me, and do not draw away from my embrace." So speaking, his face was also drowned in a flood of tears. 3 times he tries to throw his arms around his father's neck. 3 times he clasped in vain. That semblance slips through his hands, like the light breeze, most of all like a winged dream. So again, vocabulary you already know: genitor, father; tristis imago, sad image; saepios occurrens, occurring often; limina, like a threshold, we've seen that before; da, give me, from do, dare; jungere dextram, dextram, your hand, right hand in particular, where we pledge oaths with it, so word choice, dextram is the right hand; jungere, literally to join; da genitor, give me your hand, father. Okay. Fletu, like with tears. We have ter conatus, 3 times he tried. Conor is one of the deponent verbs that you learnt for the language paper. Ter frustra, 3 times in vain. Fugit imago, the fleeing image. Similima somno, similar to sleep, like a winged dream. So there's quite a bit of vocab that will help orientate you. It's not enough for you to sight translate it all, you'll have to revise it separately, but there's plenty of vocab from the language paper there. Let's have a look at the effects. Okay, so we have this juxtaposition of tua, me, you, me, showing that they're very closely connected. We have the word choice on genitor, meaning father. The repetition, or the anaphora, I should say, of tua, tua. Remember, try and think of a more exciting way to say repetition. We have the word choice as well with genitor, the idea of a really formal word for father that links to lineage and ancestry, because that's going to be important in the next video when we look at the pageant of Roman leaders. We have the repetition of imperatives, which shows he's very eager and very keen to hold his father's hand and touch him. They're so excited that they can speak to one another after Anchises has appeared in a dream, saepios occurrens, which links back to the dream sequence before our prescription. But just like in Book 2 of the Aeneid, when Aeneas tries to hug his wife, Creusa's ghost, he tries 3 times, and we have that in the anaphora of ter conatus, ter frustra. Interestingly as well, we have this mirroring of the Sibyl and Anchises, so the repetition of genitor is like Aeneas's, is like Anchises' repetition of nate, nate, but also imagos, tristis imago, links back to the Sibyl's dialogue to Karen when she said, "If you're not moved by such a pious image," and so it's mirroring what the Sibyl promised earlier on. At the very end, we have ventis volucrique, which is assonance, not alliteration, because of the soft V's, and similima somno, so very soft alliterative sounds that reflect the softness and the insubstance of Anchises' ghost. And now Aeneas saw a secluded grove, in a receding valley with rustling woodland thickets, and the river of Lethe gliding past those peaceful places. Innumerable tribes and people hovered around it, just as in the meadows on a cloudless summer's day, the bees settle on the multifarious flowers and stream round the bright lilies, and all the fields hum with their buzzing. So in Valle Reducta is our secluded grove. Sonantia Silvis is rustling woodland. Circum innumeri, around which the innumerable people and populations, is gentes populiqui. Floribus is flowers. So quite a lot of vocab you know. Aeneas was thrilled by the sudden sight and in ignorance asked the cause, what the river is in the distance, and who the men are crowding the banks in such numbers. So we can see inscius Aeneas, unknowing Aeneas, and the indirect questions in qui way. Okay, let's look at the effects. So in Valle Reducta mirrors the way that Anchises was described. Sonantia Silvis, we have that sibilance which reflects the rustling sound of the leaves, so it could be described as onomatopoeia as well. We have a pleonasm in gentes populique, like the peoples and the tribes. Really, it's to give that sense of abundance and greatness. Ac velo is the beginning of this springtime simile, which we can contrast to the wintry similes we saw earlier, as many as the leaves that fall, as many as the birds that flock in winter. And here, ac velo, just as when, and we have the ipes estate, so the bees of summertime. We have a little bit of alliteration going on. Let's have a look for that. Candida circum, so like circle happily. So it's connecting ideas together more than it's really picking up pace. And we have this caesura on inscius Aeneas. We always have a caesura when Aeneas is mentioned, or we often do, and it kind of gives him a new epithet, so like unknowing Aeneas or wondering Aeneas, again to make him the centre of the narrative. We have quite a lot of indirect questions that reflect his curiosity as well. So the overall impression is that he's seen something marvellous and positive, which is a contrast to the horror of what he saw before when he came into the underworld with Karen. I hope that was helpful for you. I'm going to speed ahead and try and get the last video done today so that you can revise in good time for your exam. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share to keep the channel going.